Hello again, everyone. It's time for one-on-one. When we come back from the break, one of my favorite people in the whole world will be the guest. This is an update. He's been on the show before, but he's done so much since that, we had to add on to it a little bit. When we come back, Coach Cam Morvant, or Cam Morvant, depending on how you know him, is our guest on One-on-One.
One-on-One is brought to you by the Law Office of Waits and Downer.
All right, Coach. I'm going to call you Coach.
That's fine.
A lot of people who don't know the past know you as a district attorney, a former district attorney, magistrate, all the important things you've done. A few times over my career when I've interviewed you and called you Coach, people go, why you call him Coach? Because he was a coach, and he was a doggone good coach.
For 6 years.
Yeah. But you were so young when you took that job.
I was 23 when I started, and when I got the head coaching job, I was the youngest head coach in the state of Louisiana. I was 26 years old. And Coach Albert gave me an opportunity. And when Coach Gaino left, I mean, he was kind of my role model. He was a good football coach. He knew the game. He knew how to coach kids, and he knew the game. And he called me and said, why don't you apply for the job? I said, you got to be kidding. I said, no, I don't think so. You know, I've only been doing this 3 years. And so, long story short, I did. And I remember Coach Albert vividly calling me up and saying, you got the job, and my hands started shaking. I'm like, you kidding me? Mm-hmm. And so it worked out well. I tell people all the time, I've done a lot of things in my life. I really have. I was a welder. I sold copy machines. I sold life insurance. I managed a furniture store. I did a lot of different things. And I can truly say that was one of the best 6 years as far as the vocation of what I was doing for a living that I had. It was really a good time.
Who was the toughest person you ever had to sell a copy machine to?
Oh, God. They gave me downtown Baton Rouge. I was living in Baton Rouge at the time. Yeah. That was a tough market. Everybody needed a copy machine in the 70s, but nobody wanted to buy one. I mean, it was just something you had to have. I did a presentation to the Livingston Parish School Board. I'll never forget this, at one of their meetings one night, and my paper got rumpled up in it. And I went and bought a new suit so I'd look good and everything, and I started perspiring, and I couldn't get the paper out the machine, and I'm thinking, oh my God, all that adds to you later on in life, which you end up deciding to do. And I think all the different things I did made me a better lawyer. I was a welder at one time, working offshore for McDermott. I still have my certification papers. I ran across that when we moved a long time ago, and I welded at Cameco, who's now John Deere, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed learning how to do it and getting pretty good at it. So you get to run into a lot of different kind of people. You know, and what I've seen with young people today, let's say attorneys, they go to high school, college, and law school, and there's nothing really in between. And I think the fact that I didn't go to law school till I was about 30 years old helped me out a lot in my career. I got to come into contact with a whole different group of folks.
I call it road bumps that you had to go over to get where you are. You've been through a few road bumps, but if I had to assess your career when you were coaching us, every time I've seen you, you've challenged yourself to do something even though there was something trying to hold you back. Like you mentioned Coach Albert asking you to coach at that young age. You said you were scared to death.
Yeah, I was.
But you didn't let the fear stop you from taking the job. When you ran for DA, I'm sure there was anxiety. When you've done a lot of things in life, I'm sure there was anxiety. But for the audience watching, how do you surpass the anxiety and get to the point where you say, I'm going to do it?
Well, there is anxiety, and like a lot of people, I do have it. I mean, at different stages, different things that you're doing. And I don't know if I don't know, I've never really thought about it, because I guess you just end up doing what you have to do at the end of the day. You just do it. And you're right, when I ran for DA, a lot of people told me I was making a mistake. My own mother, God bless her, says, can you win? I said, well, I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think I could. Yes, I can, and so on. And so, but you deal with that. I mean, you just deal with it. You have to have a goal. And you have to, I've said many times, a goal without a plan is an illusion. Think about it. You have a goal, you have a goal, you have to have a plan, and then you overcome all this stuff to get to what you want at the end. And so you have to follow through with the plan you have. You were at that thing a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about adversity. And there's different ways people handle adversity. They just do. You can run from it, go the other way, but it's going to follow you. You can try to go around it, but it's going to creep its head up at some point later on down the road. Or you can just bust it in the mouth, knock it down, and move forward. And that's kind of my philosophy of life has been. I don't let adversity stop me from doing anything. I never have.
Losses in life. Of course, me and you have a big one together. We lost to Houghton in the state finals. And I told the Vanderbilt girls basketball team the other night, they were up here for dinner. I said, there's probably not a month that goes by where somehow that doesn't pop in my head, and it bothers the heck out of me.
Yeah.
Still to this day. But in a way, it drives you in other arenas. If you could take your losses and make wins in something else, you've been able to do that quite a bit, Ab.
We all suffer losses in life. We suffer losses of people that were part of our lives, and that's inevitable for all of us at some point. You go back to that game, and I still remember that game vividly. Obviously, it was a cold weekend. I still remember watching those guys get off the bus that Thursday when they came down. I think maybe one of y'all was shaving on my entire football team, and these guys had two of them had full beards, hair on their legs. I mean, these were some men. And, I was asked, in those days, the Morning Advocate and the Times-Picayune were covering the games, and it was one of the last games played at the local stadiums. We played that at Vanderbilt. I think they went to the Superdome the next year and started playing all the games at the Dome. And so they were all in the coach's office, and we'd had a couple of calls that kind of didn't go our way. And the guy, I remember the guy from the Morning Advocate saying, well, Coach, if that call wouldn't have went, what do you think about the game? I said, let me tell you, we played those guys 10 times, they beat us 11. They were a better football team.
They were.
They were more mature than we were, they were bigger, they were faster, and they were a better football team. Now, could we have beat them? We could have, but I mean, we had, I don't know if you recall this, we had so many people that got hurt that night that would not have been able to play the next week had we had a game. And so it was a good run, but we ran up against a good football team.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
That's the first night I can remember their running backs getting to us in the secondary because they were just so big. And when Bobby Strojan is coming at you running and he's unencumbered and he's coming into the secondary, that's anxiety.
Look, it was cold, so I had the big jacket on that night, and we went in at halftime. I don't know if you recall this. We put a play in where we would dive to the right, and Russell Landry would come around from the wingman from the other side and pitching the ball because it was so aggressive and they were pursuing it so much. Well, Russell's coming around on our side of the field. And he breaks the line of scrimmage, and we're all hollering. And the backside defensive end comes and tackles him. And I mean, I got real colder at that particular point because I'm like, the backside end has just run clean across the football field and tackled one of my fastest players. And it was just a look to get there. And I have the same memories that you guys got. Was an honor. I mean, it really was being that young, first year's head coach. And we go through the season, and we end up playing for the state championship. I mean, it gets no better than that.
But in defense of Russell, I'll tell you, me, Mike Blue, and Carl Morgan at the state track meet were talking to the Houghton guys that made it to state. And I said, I remember y'all defensive end caught our running back, cleared down the field, and he starts laughing. He goes, that was me. So he was 6'4", 230.
So he was a sprinter?
He was a 100-yard dash champion.
Those guys were good.
He ran a 9.3.
I think they signed, I think they signed like 7 or 8 kids,
Yeah.
and we didn't. Nobody really. I think that maybe a couple of y'all went.
They
a couple
signed
of them
11 on defense.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it was unbelievable that the kids they had, but it was a good run.
Yeah.
It was a good run for everybody. It's a life lasting. It's something
Yeah.
you get to talk about. And look, this has been what 50 years or whatever. It's been longer than.
But how did you make us overachieve? Because after that game, we all realized we were overachieving.
Oh, absolutely. We all
But-
were. I was too.
Yeah,
I mean,
but you
all
were motivating us, and we went in and beat Lutcher. We beat St. James. We didn't think we could lose, but how were you able to do that at such a young age?
I don't know if I have an answer to that. I had good coaches that I think what we do in life, we go through life and we take a little bit from people we respect. We just do. And then things come up and you remember what you saw, what you heard from that person you respected, whether it's your parents or a coach or a teacher or a good friend or uncle, whatever it is, aunt,
Right.
whatever. And I had good coaches, I really did, and they were tough. And so I think I took a lot of that, from them. And again, it goes back to, you call it bump in the road, I call it hills and valleys. You're going to have hills and valleys in life. You're going to have that all the time. And so I never saw a valley I couldn't climb out of. And so and I think what we did that year is I think we enjoyed ourselves. We worked very hard at the beginning, if you recall, but I think we enjoyed ourselves. We had fun at practice. We laughed, we joked.
We did.
It was serious now, but we still had fun. And I had a bunch of good high school football players. I always say that. None of them were dominant. None of them went on to make all SEC anywhere or do anything like that. Carl did, but he was a junior at the time. But we just had a good group of high school football players who enjoyed the game. I mean, I don't know. We had some good coaches.
Yeah.
We did. We had other good coaches.
Dedicated coaches.
Very. We all were. We put in a lot of time. And that was another thing that, you talk about life. And I've always said that I was never the smartest guy in the courtroom. And I was probably not the best football coach on the field, but very few could outwork me. And so I pride myself on that. I pride myself on preparation and work. I mean, I don't know if y'all realize this, but Coach Becker and I would stay at the field house and we would go to Thibodeau and pick up our game film at 1 o'clock in the morning because they would do my film first. That's where they developed them.
Mr. Musso?
Benny Musso. And Cam Frost did the video, the games. And we would swap films the Saturday morning. So Coach Carl or somebody would do a drive where we were, meet halfway, we'd swap films so we could get the other team. But I would get my film at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'd bring it home. And I'd bring the projector home. We only had one in those days. I didn't have one at the house. I'd bring one home. I mean, the team projector home, and look at our film till probably 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and be back at school, for 7:30, 8 o'clock. Take care of the bobos from the night before, and then we'd start breaking the film down. And then you guys would come on Sunday mornings, and I'd show y'all the film from Friday night. We'd have a good time doing that.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm.
You're right. Your work ethic, now that I look back, I mean, we were just having fun.
Yeah.
Our senior year, and we had odd jobs. We all had little part-time jobs to make a little money. Where'd you get that work ethic from?
I don't know. It's where you get your personality from. I'm a firm believer. I think you're born with a lot of this stuff. I think your personality, because I've dealt with literally thousands of people in my lifetime now, in all walks of life. And the same people from the same family are different. Think about it. When I taught school, I had the same families, coming through Vanderbilt, and when I was at E.D. White, the same thing. And in my career as DA and practicing law and other things, I've dealt with families, and they're different. So I just think it's all different. So to say that how you attribute something to what your personality is, I think it's somewhat developmental. I do, but I think some of it you're born with. Because I see people.
You have more of a middle child personality, but you were the oldest child of 9.
Oldest of 9. Oldest of 9, yes.
But you have, I think I probably asked you this before, but Was it fear of failure that drove you more than the accolades you get with success? You hated to lose.
I forget about success real quick.
Yeah.
I do. I'll be honest with you. It's good, but I forget about that real quick.
Yeah.
I don't like to fail at anything. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just never did. I mean, when I was in
But
high
was
school.
it a competitive household? You had 9.
We did. We had 6 boys and 3 girls,
Mm-hmm.
and all the boys were athletes. And I had a couple of brothers that were very good athletes. You know, one of them, Jim, played in the high school all-star game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my brother Ben was a pitcher on the state championship team. So I had some. You know, we were good athletes in our family. And you know, I played football and track. You know, and I was on the track team at Nichols, the first track team when they had at Nichols. And so
You were all-state discus
yes,
and
yeah,
and track.
I won the state champ. I won a district 3 times and the regional and the state championship. But I worked hard to do that. I would carry my shot put and discus home on Friday afternoons and go back to the stadium. It was called St. Joseph Stadium at the time, and chunk it over the fence. And they locked it up, so you had to climb over that 8-foot fence to get on there and go throw. You know, and I'd carry it back, you know, throw it back over the fence and go home when I was finished. So it's not something that came easy to me. You know, just like academics never came easy to me. But, you know, if you work at things, and you know that they got some people that are just natural. They're natural musicians, they're natural whatever, athletes. They can get in a classroom and absorb things quicker than we can, and some of us have to work a little bit harder. So usually if I make up my mind on something, I'm pretty good at accomplishing it. But it takes some work.
You played in a state championship football game.
We played.
You won.
Yes.
So you coach in a state championship football game. How was it different? Were you more anxious as a coach, or were you more anxious as a player?
Way more as a coach. I mean, you're older. There's a lot more responsibility.
And you can't run and work it off.
No, and when you're the head coach, you're in charge of everything. You're in charge of making. I mean, you know, from the managers making sure that the water bottles are full. I mean, and you're just in charge of everything. And so, but again, it was a different. I don't think you could ever go back and relive that because the pieces just fell into place. I give this statistic a lot. We had one starter, I think, miss one Monday practice the entire year. We had no injuries, for one thing. So we had the same team that started the first week of September in the Jamboree that finished up the season in December with the last game. And that makes a huge difference in high school and college, and professional football. You watch it in any type of athletics, if you don't have injuries all the way through the season, you're a step up from the other teams. And so
I think Harry got injured late. Didn't Bob Haydell get injured late?
we did, but we didn't have any that
season ending.
No, it was not. I mean, you know, it was nothing that we could not, you know, adjust to, because most of the time in high school athletics, you got a small core group of pretty good players. The rest are what I call fill-ins. They're going to occupy a spot and do their job. If they do their job, we're all good. But you have a core group of guys that you can't lose. I mean, you lose 1 or 2 of them, you're in trouble. And we just didn't do it. I mean, we stayed healthy all year.
For all of your cases, including those with catastrophic significance, call Waits and Downer Law Firm. This one-on-one program has been brought to you by the law offices of Waits and Downer.